Yeah, I mean, it's
I
aviation's
thought
biggest mystery
all this footage
ever.
was
I mean,
fake
and
until
it's
I
the
seen
last plane to
this.
go missing, actually, even now in 2025. You know, if you look it up, you realize 2014. And the reason why I think people really, it still lingers in people's minds is in 2014, we know that a plane the size of a Boeing 777 can't just disappear, but that's what we've been told. And even 10 years later, we still don't have any explanation that makes any sense.
So tell us what happens when we see, we're seeing an energy orb come in, right?
So I would call these hypersonic plasma orbs.
And there's one comes in.
Because this is essentially, they've created a drone here. They've taken the hypersonic turbojet engines and they've turned it into a heat exchange.
And there's 3.
Yeah, and the orbs lock in, and they're using magnetism to lock in like this. So why can they create a perfect triangle like that? Because it's magnet inversion, positive and minus magnetic or electromagnetic charge, and it creates an equilibrium, and they're just locking into a certain equilibrium. So how would you pull something like this off? Well, you would use some kind of fly-by-wire advanced, almost AI, computer-based system for flight navigation. And then they spin around the plane, and then they go into this vertical orientation. Why did they flip to this vertical orientation? There's actually a lot of clues to be gained there from a scientific perspective. Like why, if you're spinning around the plane, you got 3 orbs spinning around the plane, why would you choose a specific way to spin around them? Because you can spin in 360 degrees. It doesn't matter. You can spin however you want. They're doing that because they're telling us where this plane is going. If this was just a missile, like a lot of people say, they think this is an annihilation event. If this is annihilation, I would just shoot a missile at the thing and it's gonna blow up. Why this whole, like, look at this dance. And watch when this first orb locks into the plane. When the first orb locks into the plane, it's almost like it doesn't lock in right away. There's like one orb spin around the plane, but the other 2 orbs, as they lock in, they know exactly where they're going. They're locking in directly into their triangle formation. That tells me that this is like some kind of homing weapon where, like, okay, you're painting the target, you've got the first orb locked in, and now they're all locked in, and now they're, you know, doing their program, their dance to spin around the plane. And it must be some, I think, a teleportation protocol. Like now that the orbs are in this vertical formation, spinning around the plane, they're spinning counterclockwise around the plane just disappears. Now, this was the thing.
Flash. What's the flash?
And the flash is a flash of light, but that's actually not visible light, as we will find out when we watch the second video. But there's this flash of light. It turns out if you research wormholes, teleportation type stuff, you find that you expect there to be this flash of X-ray or soft X-ray or ultraviolet light. And those forms of light are not visible to the human eye. Now, this is going to be one of the hugest clues in the second video that what we're looking at is a real wormhole, real scientifically accurate one. Because we're going to look at a second video in a minute. And in the second video, we're going to see that flash is black. It means it's outside the thermal range of this color. And that would mean
it's not an explosion at all.
So yeah, it's not. It's more of like an implosion. But then right before this zap happens, the orbs are spinning around the plane just like in the first video, but we see a little bit more detail in the drone video. We can see the orbs actually converge on the plane in the last seconds. Like right before this zap happens, we see that the zap is actually black in the thermal, which indicates it's non-thermal. It's not releasing heat, because otherwise it should be like white hot, red or something, but it's all black. And the camera operator like just zooms out like casually, like after the plane's just not there anymore. Like for me, if that was somebody who was like seeing that for the first time, if that was alien orbs that came out of nowhere, that I feel like the camera operator should have been looking around, wondering like what just happened, like freaking out. But if them, it was
he's seen this before.
Yeah, he's seen this. It wasn't his first rodeo with some plasma orbs.
Let's play it.
And this one is more important than the first video just because of all the details that it shows in this. This color FLIR. People didn't even know we had color FLIR capability. You can just clearly see the nose of the Reaper drone as well. The orbs themselves, it's fun to see how they lock in. I mean, it's not fun because of what happened to 239 people, but the technology is amazing. The color of the orb is super important. It changes from like all green to becoming blue and green or a little bit of yellow. And that's because these things are little fusion reactors. They're little compact fusion reactors covered in a ball of plasma, and it's just a magnetic field that's confining the plasma. And we see these dark lines in front of the orbs. This is also another indicator that this is a little ball of plasma that's a fusion reactor. These lines in front and behind the orbs, this is consistent with a field reverse configuration in fusion. Field reverse configuration in fusion has 2 axial jets that shoot out of either end. So essentially what they've done here is they've turned some of these old scramjet engine designs into a heat exchange where there's a fusion reaction happening in the middle of those plasma orbs. And they create a plasma bubble around them through the extremely powerful magnetic fields that they have. And the big problem in fusion is confining all the plasma. Like they can't keep it all perfectly confined. But what they found is, okay, well, don't try to keep it all perfectly confined. Like let it shoot out in a jet, and you can control that jet for propulsion. And if this sounds crazy, well, I thought it was crazy too until I started reading the DIRDs, the Defense Intelligence Reference Documents, those papers I was talking about, the ones that are the Pentagon secret papers. In those papers, they talk about negative mass propulsion, but also aneutronic fusion propulsion. Aneutronic fusion propulsion. And I went, I think that's what we're seeing here. And now I'm almost certain that's what we're seeing. Aneutronic fusion propulsion and also air breathing magnetohydrodynamics, which basically means you can ionize the air itself, turn the air into a plasma, like extracting like the hydrogen basically out of it, turn that into a plasma and use that as your fuel. Use that as your fuel source in a fusion reactor. And what that means is now you don't need these big rocket tanks to hold all your fuel anymore, because you use the air itself as the fuel. And that's what they've done here. And so this would imply that this, you know, that's not alien technology, but it's just technology so far beyond where we're currently thinking right now, where we think fusion is another 20, 30 years away. Meanwhile, you've got the Air Force or Lockheed Martin. Those are the people that I've kind of tagged as the people who would have built these. You know, they've got 3-dimensional stabilization. They've got, you know, fly-by-wire AI navigation here at this point. We've got fusion to the point where we've got magnetic field strengths that can perfectly confine our plasma. And then we've also potentially got right there some type of gravitational weapon. Like, that's what I would call that. When you see something zip out like it's going through a mirror, that's essentially like dropping through our plane of reality to this extra dimension, and now you're just popping up somewhere else. Like, just like folding your paper in half, right? You fold the paper in half, and that's how all the wormholes are essentially explained.